Have you ever had one of those moments where you suddenly stop and think, wait, but haven't I already done this before? Maybe it's a conversation. Maybe it's a place. Maybe it's just someone saying something. And for a second, everything feels weirdly familiar, like you've somehow already lived this exact moment, which honestly is kind of creepy. And the strange part is, you know it doesn't make sense. Like your brain is telling you, no, no, you've definitely been here before. But another part of you is sitting there going, that's impossible. And I don't know, something about that always messes with me because memories are supposed to belong to the past, not right now. And yet somehow, for a few seconds, the present starts feeling like a memory, which is weird enough on its own. But here's the part that kind of blows my mind. Almost everyone experiences this. Seriously, almost everybody. Which means one of the weirdest feelings humans can have happens to millions of people. And even after all these years, even with all the technology we have, nobody really has a final answer. And honestly, that's kind of crazy. Long before scientists tried to explain this feeling, people had their own ideas. Some believed it was proof of past lives. Others thought it was messages from gods. And honestly, I kind of understand why. Because imagine suddenly feeling like you've already experienced this exact moment before. What else are you supposed to think? And for thousands of years, people treated deja vu as something mysterious, something supernatural, something beyond human understanding. And for a while, that explanation made sense. So we thought. But eventually, people started asking a different question. What if this strange feeling wasn't coming from somewhere outside of us? What if it was coming from inside our own minds? And honestly, that's where things start getting interesting. Then, in the early 1900s, a man named Sigmund Freud had a completely different idea. He thought this strange feeling wasn't coming from past lives or messages from the gods. Instead, he believed it came from hidden memories buried deep inside the mind. And honestly, at first, that sounds pretty reasonable. I mean, maybe your brain remembers something that you forgot. Problem solved, right? Well, not exactly, because the deeper people looked into it, the stranger things became. And weirdly enough, no single explanation seemed to answer everything, which honestly is kind of frustrating because you'd think after all this time we'd have a simple answer, but instead, every answer seemed to create even more questions, and somehow that only made the mystery bigger. And honestly, that's where things start getting weird. Today, scientists have a few different theories, and honestly, some of them are kind of strange. One idea says your brain might simply process information slightly out of sync, almost like one part of your brain receives something just a tiny fraction of a second before another part does, which means the present accidentally gets filed away as a memory. And honestly, that sounds ridiculous, but somehow it kind of makes sense. Another theory says your brain mistakes something new for something old, like putting the wrong photo into the wrong folder. And weirdly enough, that explanation also sounds pretty reasonable. But here's the part I couldn't stop thinking about. If that's really what's happening, why doesn't everyone experience deja vu the same way? And why do some people almost never get it, while others experience it all the time? And weirdly enough, scientists still aren't completely sure, which honestly blows my mind because we're talking about something that happens to millions of people, something almost all of us have experienced. And yet, nobody really has a final answer. And I don't know, something about that feels strangely beautiful because even after everything we've discovered, reality still has a few secrets left. Because nobody really has a final answer, people have come up with some pretty wild ideas. Some believe deja vu is evidence of past lives. Others think it's memories from dreams you've forgotten. And then there are people who think it's proof that we're living in a simulation, which, I'm not gonna lie, sounds like something you'd come up with at 2 in the morning after watching conspiracy videos. And somehow, those aren't even the strangest theories. Some people believe deja vu happens because another version of you, in another universe, already lived this exact moment. And I know that sounds completely insane. But if reality suddenly feels familiar for no reason, your brain naturally wants an explanation, even if that explanation sounds impossible. And maybe that's why humans have spent thousands of years trying to understand this feeling. Because something deep inside us hates unanswered questions. We want things to make sense. We want mysteries to have endings. But every now and then, reality just shrugs and says, good luck. And strangely enough, I kind of love that. But maybe the strangest thing about deja vu isn't that it happens, it's how it feels. Because for just a second, the present stops feeling like the present. And somehow, it starts feeling like a memory, which is weird if you think about it, because memories are supposed to belong to the past, not right now. And yet, for a few seconds, that line seems to disappear. And I don't know, that's what always gets me. Because no matter how many theories you hear, no matter how much science tries to explain it, that feeling never really goes away. You still sit there thinking, wait, the why does this feel so familiar? And maybe that's why people have been fascinated by deja vu for so long. Not because it's scary, not because it's supernatural, but because for a brief moment, reality feels slightly out of place. Like you're catching a glimpse of something you were never supposed to notice. And I know that sounds dramatic, but if you've ever experienced deja vu, you probably know exactly what I mean. Maybe that's what makes deja vu so fascinating. Not because it's scary, or supernatural, or proof that we're living in a simulation, but because every now and then, life pauses for just a second, and something completely ordinary starts feeling strangely familiar. And maybe that's your brain making a mistake. Maybe it's just memories getting mixed up. Or maybe some things don't need to be completely understood. Because if there's one thing I've learned from looking into all of this, it's that reality is a lot stranger than we give it credit for. And somehow, I think that's a good thing. Because a world where everything is already explained feels a little smaller, a little less mysterious, and maybe a little less magical. So, if life occasionally gives us these strange little moments, these tiny glitches that make us stop and wonder, maybe that's not something to be afraid of. Maybe that's something to appreciate. Because even after all these years, even after everything we've discovered, there are still moments that remind us we don't have all the answers. And maybe that's okay. Because sometimes the mystery is the fun part. And I don't know, there's something strangely comforting about that. Well, anyway, it's getting late. And if you ever experience deja vu again, just know you're not the only one sitting there thinking, wait, one, haven't I done this before?